Welcome, listeners, to Real Wisdom with NK, Midwest Film Festival's podcast exploring the journeys, insights, and lessons from filmmakers and creatives across the Midwest. Today, we are talking about leadership in film. We're going to look at the traits, the challenges, and the evolution of great leaders on set and beyond. Do you wish there was a financial institution who understood your creative journey and catered to your unique needs as an artist? Well, look no further. Actors Federal Credit Union was created for the creative community, offering real support, reliable products and services, and banking with empathy. With lower loan rates, higher deposit rates, less fees, and nationwide ATM access, Actors FCU has your back every step of your journey. They've been serving the creative community for over 60 years and are here for you. Visit www.actorsfcu.com to learn more. Class was in session today with one of the greatest to ever done the thing, Mr. Pemon Rami. Leadership in film is something that I've wanted to talk about for a really long time, because what I see when we have people in place who are truly leaders, heading up our departments, leading the charge, you get not only the best performances out of your actors, you create space for co-creation in a way that you otherwise wouldn't even know was possible. So when you want to make films, make sure you got the right people in place to lead the charge. Pemon Rami is an author, film producer, director, and Loyola University professor. He served as the former director of educational and public programs at the DuSable Museum and is a member of the Illinois Arts Council and the Luminary Board of the Independent Film Alliance. Rami appeared in TV's first black soap opera, Bird of the Iron Feather, and films like The Spook Who Sat by the Door and Mahogany. He worked as a casting director on The Blues Brothers and Cooley High and produced Of Boys and Men and 93 Days. He also developed the curriculum for Nigeria's Terra Academy for the Arts and was inducted into the Wendell Phillips High School Hall of Fame and the Chicago Black Arts Hall of Fame. His memoir, When Blackness Was Golden, was released in 2022. Today, we're talking about leadership in film, the traits, the challenges, and the evolution of great leaders on set and beyond. And I couldn't think of a better person to sit down with than a mentor, a leader, and an inspiration of mine, Mr. Pemon Rami.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
It is always a pleasure to sit and talk with you.
Same. It's an honor, and the older I get and the more time that I have in this industry, I realize how absolutely privileged I have been to be under your tutelage as well as Ms. Masekwa's. Genuinely.
Thank you. You know, we continue to mentor because so many people in our early lives took us under their wing. And it's a continuum. And so we have a responsibility for passing on the information that we receive to the people that are coming behind us. How do we sustain an industry, an idea, a philosophy, without us being able to look at the people that are standing there and saying, I'm not trying to recreate me. I'm trying to give you an opportunity to find yourself, to realize the importance of communications and the importance of reaching the world and making it a better place.
You know, when I think about leadership, you were just number one and only one on the list to be in this space to talk about leadership because you embody it so deeply and you know it from the moment you're in your presence. And the thing about leadership calls you higher into your power, not oppress you down to make you feel smaller. And your energy is one that immediately you take notice and you get in alignment and then you rise up, or you quickly see where you're out of integrity.
You know, it is those of us that are in the entertainment business are supposed to, in many ways, be seers. We're supposed to look at the world, and we're supposed to be able to find images and things within it that are worth regurgitating and give it and put it back out. But within that process, too many of us ignore the people that are around us, that all they need is a push. Because talent is developed as a result of opportunity. And so when you see young people that have talent, you want to provide them with an opportunity for it to develop. Doesn't mean that they won't get off course. It won't mean that they won't make choices that you wouldn't make. But at least you have given them an opportunity to see the world. And that's in some ways, I think, what leadership has to be. It's not about just getting people to follow you. It's about creating a methodology of getting people to realize the goodness in them and what they can give back in a way to make the world a better place.
And when you think about that, let's take it back a step, like where you come and what you're committed to when you see young people and being a seer, as you say, and having had folks take you under their wing as you came up. Tell a little bit about your story and how you got into the industry and where you are today.
I was playing Little League Baseball, and I was 9 at the time. And I was taking the equipment back to Stateway Park District where we were borrowing the equipment. And I walked in to take the equipment back, and there was a theater company. I didn't know it was a theater company. There were some people up on stage talking to themselves. And it seemed kind of cool. So I asked them what they were doing. They said, well, this is theater. We're putting on plays. It was Okoro Harold Johnson, Abena Joan Brown, and James Hughes that were the founders of ETA. And they were just starting a theater company. And I sat there fascinated. And they let me hang around. And so I hung around with them. I watched everything that they were doing. And then I was introduced to Theodore Ward, who was one of the founders of the Negro Federal Theater and had started teaching theater in Chicago in the 1930s. He and Lysa Hughes, before they went to New York to help to establish the movements that were happening in Harlem. But a lot of them started here in Chicago first before they went to participate in the Harlem Renaissance. And so when I met Ted, I was 16 at the time, and he took me under his wing. And I think, and what I've said to young people is I think the reason that a lot of them did it was because they realized I wasn't going to waste their time in getting the information. So, I spent almost a couple of years. They're getting ready to do his play at the Court Theater that was done on Broadway in 1943. And I had the good fortune of reading all of his material. And there were two things that he told me that I would pass on to your folks. The first was, he said, don't go to school to study theater and film. So go to school to study, the technical aspects or the craft or anything associated with business. But if you want to really learn theater and film, work with the best in the business, and you will not find them in colleges. And that's what I did. I went to New York, and I worked with the best of the folks in New York, and I was on Broadway with Oscar Brown Jr. and Muhammad Ali when they did Big Time Buck White, and I worked with the Negro Ensemble Company and the National Black Theater, Speech and Drama. And so I would spend the majority of my time between my teen years and my early 20s traveling the country, directing plays, producing material, and meeting all of the folks that I thought were making a difference. They're actors and people that call themselves filmmakers that will tell you that they never watch movies, that they don't go to see plays. And how do you know what you should become in this business unless you see it? It's a visual medium. If you don't know what people are doing, and if you don't go to see plays, if you don't go to see movies, then why should someone pay to come see yours?
Say it.
It's like, why? And so the obligation, I think, of leaders in this industry is twofold. If you look back originally, the first one was to how do we define what theater is and then make it competitive. So I have consulted with theater companies around the world. And so I asked them, I said, what's your competition? And they will say, oh, the theater down the road is doing 4 or 5 plays. That's not your competition. Your competition is baseball. Your competition is basketball. Your competition is concerts. Your competition is the ability of a person to feed their family. Your competition is not the other person next to you doing a play. Because even if they sold out all of their tickets and you sold out all yours, you would only reach a minuscule amount of the audience available to you in the city or any city in the country. And so when you begin to look at what your competition is, then you begin to look at, okay, so as a leader in this business, what is it that I have to do? I have to build an ecosystem around me that's going to support it, which means in the 1960s, there were no black directors in the city. So so when they got ready to do a black soap opera, which is Bird of the Iron Feather, they sent Okoro Harold Johnson, who was a theater director, to Boston to get a certificate so he could come back to Chicago become a director. There was nobody around. I mean, there was nobody there. So and someone asked me, where did we find actors? Well, they weren't being trained in school. We had to teach them. So we taught acting every Tuesday and Thursday for years, free, so that we could build up the acting community. And then what did we have to do after that? After that, we had to say, okay, so where are we going to do the plays? Now, once you put this together, where are you going to do them? And then once you do that, then who's going to produce it? Where's the money going to come from? Where's the infrastructure for the facility going to come from? All of those are elements that leadership has taken into consideration. Where are people going to be trained? And to what extent are they going to be trained? How do we convince Kodak that they should build a new film? How do we convince Max Factor that they ought to make black makeup instead of just selling the Egyptian 1, 2, and 3, which is what they used to do? When you went to the makeup places, that's what you would find. And so you had all of these people that began to look at infrastructure. How do you build that around you? Like today, where do people go if you want to take acting classes outside of the university? You just want to be an actor. You want to go do some commercials. Where do you go? Where do you go to get to be trained? Where do you go for that opportunity? Where do you go to talk about this industry and what it represents and how you get a foot up in it? And who do you listen to do that? And then my final point on that is when you begin to talk about the creation of art, what's it based on? Who are you trying to reach? Why are you trying to reach them? What do you want to do after you reach them? What are those elements? And so if you're going to lead a film industry, you can't just talk about, okay, I got to find some money to make a movie. You got to say, okay, so what kind of movies are we going to make and who are we trying to reach? Are we trying to do animation because we want to reach kids? Are we trying to do historical stuff because, are we trying to do stuff specific to women or to men or to relationships? Why are we doing what we're doing?
And when you ask yourself that question, as a leader, and you're looking at really what I'm hearing is the sum of the parts, right? Like the film is the sum of its parts, and you have to be thinking about all these things 360, from training all the way up. And from the space that you were coming from was like actually building the infrastructure for that to even happen. So where we are now, and we've seen the industry change so much in Chicago specifically, in the infrastructure. I mean, I know since I've come into the industry is completely different. When I came to Chicago, it was a commercial, industrial, and theater town. And now we have big shows and, like Emmy Award winning shows. And that wasn't the case before. And I've seen that change so much. And as I've become, gotten further along in this industry, I also see leadership, and then I see the lack thereof. And, people not understanding that being a director, being a department head, this is being a leader, not just a creative. These go hand in hand. So from your perspective, what are the non-negotiables that a leader must possess in order to get a film to its finish line powerfully?
I think the first thing you have to do is decide the kind of person that you are and the kind of set and the kind of operation that you want to run. What kind of spirit do you want to bring to the set? What kind of spirit do you want to bring to the work that you produce? And then who's it for? And I go back to who is it for because when you look at a lot of the movies that are being made, a lot of people that are writing films now are writing them because they want to be on Netflix. And so they'll look at what's on Netflix or they'll look at what's on Prime and say, okay, well, when you read the synopsis of a lot of these films, they all sound the same. It's like woman is kidnapped by her father, and then the next one would be the father's kidnapped by this woman, and it's almost like we can't be creative because we have to replicate something that people already know exists to be able to define it so that they understand it. In the case of this industry and what you all are doing at the festival, it's important that people are able to see their work, but also that they're in an environment where it can be criticized without them being wiped out in terms of wanting to be in the industry. You have to have strong skin, but on the other hand, you have to be able to say to people, this is just not right. What you're doing here, you need to go back to school and you need to learn these aspects of what it takes. I saw a short film that someone shot not too long ago, and they were trying to use a blue screen. It was completely lit wrong for blue screen. So you saw a halo. It was a film about Jesus and some of his disciples. You saw a halo, but it wasn't the right kind of halo.
The wrong kind of halo?
It was the wrong kind of halo.
It's like, this looks like a chalk outline.
Yeah. And so I remember Quentin Tarantino said once, when people asked him, did he go to film school? He said, no, I didn't go to film school. I watched film. And I remember talking to Robert Townsend one weekend. I asked what he was doing. He said, well, I'm watching every film that won the Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Because I want to see what they have in common. And if I'm going to create work that's going to reach that level, then these are the elements that I have to look for. So how do we build this industry becomes a question in terms of leadership. Part of it, I think, comes from our ability to be able to work with each other and recognize that we have more in common than we don't. And so why should I have to buy all of my costumes every time when I know that you just did a show and you're not going to use them again for a while? Why can't we have that type of exchange? Why can't we build a database that will allow us to be able to identify crew that are checked off as being proficient and on time, and they did what they were supposed to do, and if in case says that they're good, then we know that they're good. Because we have to be in a position where we're able to do that. And if I'm going to recommend someone to somebody, I've got to know that these folks are going to do what's expected of them.
That's right.
And so in building the structure, there are two things. One, we have to know that we're building a structure that is self-sustaining and it's a continuum. The second thing, we have to build people that will help to support that effort. And thirdly, we have to make sure that young actors and producers that are coming along realize that they have an accountability back to the source that gave them the opportunity in the first place. So you've got to be able to say, okay, well, I just made multi-million dollars. I'm going to put up some money for a scholarship, for some other people to come behind me, or I'm going to do a workshop, or I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a play at Congo Square for free because now I'm a celebrity and I know that I can sell out the house for them where I couldn't before.
And how do we start cultivating this in young people and in leaders and future leaders who aren't officially in these leadership roles yet? How do we start planting those seeds when they're early in their careers so that as they come up, they are having an understanding of that?
It's a simple answer from me is it's part of your curriculum. If I'm going to teach you how to speak, I also need to teach you how to be supportive. If I'm going to teach you how to act and to play characters, I've also got to teach you that in this world, for you to be able to play those characters, you got to have a place where you can go and do that. And so if you're not producing the entities and you're not building an audience, then what are we doing?
When you say that, I think that's so good. I'm actually building out curriculum over at Free Spirit Media right now and helping them reshape their program, their film program. And for me, that was one of the biggest things. I was like, and I really learned it from you, that integrity of being your word and showing up on time, and time is money. And I remember the first thing you told me when I was about to shoot The Last New Year and I was shaking in my boots and I was at DuSable and I was just like, do you have any advice? And you just looked at me and you said, attack the day. Attack the day. There is no time to waste. Don't save it for later. Do it now. Be organized and attack the day. And so we were at the script writing level and I'm teaching them now. I was like, this is not a time, and Ade also taught me that, right? Like when it came to the script, that, these are the things that are going to be the marching orders for everybody who comes onto this set. So it needs to be clear. It needs to be concise. You need to do a service to everybody in every department for them to understand what they're creating with you. So you need to be clear in your communication in your script. That must be tight first, because if it is not, everything else will fall apart. And then you need to be in integrity to your word. Be where you say you're going to be when you're going to be there. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And be kind, listen more than you talk, and anticipate need. And teaching them that now is like, you need to know all of these things when you go on any set. And that's what's going to make you irreplaceable, because people are looking for you to be the solution to the problem.
They are. And all you have to do is sometimes just be there. So I just finished the film, and when you're on the set, you see people, so you hire PAs. And you hire PAs, you'll see some PAs that will stand by the director or stand by the technicians, and they'll be watching what's going on. And then you see the group that's by the food.
By the crafty.
By crafty,
yeah. The little crafty monsters.
So one or the other. Mm-hmm. And those people that really want to be in this industry are the ones that you'll see picking up everything they can from the directors and seeing why they put this where they did and why they lit it and why to use that particular lens. It's part of that creative process, right? At the end of the day, we should not be teaching people to be actors. We should be teaching them to be communicators. And so in the process of learning to communicate, you have to, as part of the curriculum, say, there's three things I want you to get out of this course. One, I want you to be able to introduce yourself without looking down at the card and without fumbling and without having to read it. Because you see some people with their speech, hi, my name is NK, and you're reading it and going, you know that part. Let's just kind of get that part out the way.
You know your name?
And so they need to understand that in basketball, the basketball players that make the most money are not the best players. They're the ones that can do the commercials. For real. Mm-hmm, It's like and they make the most out of it. And so part of the process of teaching is to teach about accountability, to teach about aesthetics and why you're creating what you're creating and what's the end product of it. Why are you doing the movies that you're doing, and who are you doing them for? And if you're not saying, I'm doing a love story so that everybody in the world can have love in their life by following this example, then you're doing a disservice. If you say, I'm just doing a black love story about two black people, it's about love. And if I can't go see that because it's two black people dealing with love, then it's my problem. It's not the problem of the filmmaker. You're supposed to tell this rich story, and I'm supposed to be able to sit there and get engaged, look beyond ethnicity, look beyond racism, look beyond all of the garbage and excuses, and say, this is just about two people in love. And I get it. So
you just wrapped a film, right? So it's fresh, so when you're in these spaces, like what are some ways some strategies and tips that you can share that you utilize to align your team, especially under high pressure situations where there might be creative differences? Like what are some strategies that you use to just bring people back to the middle and stay focused on telling the story about love or whatever it might be?
Clint Eastwood at one point was asked why he hired the same people. And he said, because I don't have to think about them. I don't have to worry about them knowing their jobs. I don't have to worry about them being on time. They're going to come and they're going to do what they set out to do. And I appreciate that notion. That you mentioned something earlier about the number of projects that are being done in Chicago. And Center Stage and all of that is great, for those people that work in the industry. However, it's also left a bit of an issue because on the film that we just finished, it's an independent film, but people are expecting to get paid what they're paying for these other big companies that are in town.
Paid scale, like
no, beyond scale.
oh,
Beyond scale.
okay,
And also beyond, if you're doing a independent film, you might only have money for 4 people. Well, a lot of these folks, because they're working in this industry here, they want, the first AD wants the second AD and then the third AD, and I'm going, wait, you don't have the money for that. So planning is excessively important. And the problem is that most people don't spend enough time in pre-production planning. People should realize when they're doing a project that they're coming to do the best they can do. You're coming to help me do my project, my film, but I want you, if you're the DP, I want you to bring your personal magic. I don't want you to just come in and say, well, Pemon says shoot it from up on top of the building, and it's the worst shot in the world. That's why I brought you in.
Tell me,
it's a collaboration.
Not the building,
right? Yeah. It's a collaboration, and so you want people that you can trust, that will be honest with you, that will speak up, and too many times I think people don't have enough experience to know what to talk about and what not to talk about and how to get things done. And some of it just comes with experience. And so what I say to a lot of young filmmakers, try to find Spielberg's first movie. Try to find Spike's first movie. They cut, I think it was called Bedford Style. They cut hair, don't they, or something like that. It's about barbershop. And look at how bad they are. And when I say bad, they didn't have, Spielberg used his mother's ketchup for the blood for whatever he was doing. So he was squirting ketchup all over the kitchen. But when you look at those projects, you realize that how many films did it take for him to become Spielberg? How many films did it take for him to become Spike? Now we know they did work, but part of this process is that it's not ending. Your ability to develop and get better at what you do comes along with experience. The more you do, the better you'll be. And just because you wrote a script and you gave it to somebody and they rejected it does not mean it wasn't a good script. Does
That's
not
really
mean it
good
wasn't
too.
a story worth telling. It just means that they weren't worth telling it. So I see all these people that write these proposals and they'll send it to MacArthur, and MacArthur will turn them down. Well,
I've been down by MacArthur before.
but send that same proposal to all these other places, because maybe one of them will pick it up.
So say someone comes in and you're like, well, listen, Pemon said shoot it from the top of the building. And they're like, I don't really want to shoot it from the top of the building. And it becomes a whole issue, right? How do you not navigate conflict while keeping team morale when you're on set?
I think part of it is defining roles and not assuming that people understand the roles by definition. And so my wife and I, as you know, Masekwa, have worked together for 57 years, be 58 coming up, that we produce together. And we've been married, it'll be 50 years in May. And we do contracts with ourselves so that we're clear as to who's responsible for what. If she's producing, I work for her.
Come on.
If I'm producing, then she works for me. And we make it really clear who's responsible for what, who the crew reports to, and all of that. And if we don't do it, then they won't be in line either. And so part of it is saying to the DP, I'm going to let you bring your people in. You can bring your own team, but I want to meet them. I want to know them. I want to know that they're going to have the kind of energy in the morning that we need to get this thing rolling. I don't want to be on set at 7 and we don't get the first shot off until 10.
Yeah.
Just because you all are having coffee and sitting around. But on the other hand, leadership is encouragement. It's criticism and encouragement. You want to criticize people for what they're not doing, but you want to encourage them for what their capacity is. And once they do good, because that's what you want to see more of.
Right.
And if you call them back, Ade, I took Ade to Nigeria with us when we did 93 Days.
Yeah, it was the Danny Glover film, yeah.
It was the Danny Glover film. He was there 6 months with me. But the reason I did it was to give him the experience. How many people can come back and say, I was on a 6-month shoot with Danny Glover in Nigeria, and go back and tell their instructors that in school, because they didn't have that on their resumes.
Right.
But that's the kind of opportunities. And the other thing I want to say to producers, we have all kind of excuses for why not to hire people. When you are hired by one of the studios, they might say to you, well, this person doesn't have enough experience, you can't hire them. But then we have to be smart enough to determine how do we get people into this cycle. So what we've done over the years is I've asked for more money for me. And if I ask for an additional $1,000, then I can give that $1,000 to you, because now you have the experience that you need on your resume. And I paid it.
Ooh.
So the next time I come through, they can't say, well, NK doesn't have any experience, because we've created the methodology for that to take place.
So good.
And we have to create people behind us. You have to do it.
That's such a spirit of generosity and thinking broader and thinking about the big picture. How do you continue to create collaboratively, but also strategically bring in community, right? And community looks so many different ways, right? But it's like collectively working together towards this thing, whatever that thing might be. And in this particular case, we're talking about film. One, I love that. And I want to talk a little more, because this gives the energy of me. Like, we're talking about hierarchical leadership versus collaborative leadership. Like, so you've gotten really clear, like, and I love that you, Ms. Masakwa, sit down and create a contract of what I would call agreement, right? Instead of expectations, because expectations breed resentment. Like you said, it's like a difference between, like, yes, is what your role says, and I'm not just going to assume, well, I expected that you knew that you were going to do X, Y, and Z, and then here we are in an argument, frustrated, irritated, and that leaks into every other aspect of whatever it is you're creating, right? You've instead gotten really clear, this is the agreement for this particular project, and this is how we're going to move. That, to me, also lends itself to being a more collaborative leadership space as opposed to hierarchical. Give me your take on hierarchical versus, like, collaborative.
Well, my first response would be, if you're in charge, you don't have to prove it.
Hey, say that one again.
You don't, because you're there. You're in charge. The buck stops with you. Mm-hmm. So if you know that, then you don't have to beat your chest in front of people to prove it. That's the first thing. But hierarchical,
deep breath on that one, yes.
Hierarchical basically means who's at the top of the totem pole. But in being at the top, you have to realize how many other people you need to get this thing complete.
Come on.
Whatever it is. And so collaboration is not a dirty word. As a matter of fact, it is a priority. For you to be in this business for a long period of time is to find people to get the stress out so that you can focus on something else.
Yes.
I realized that I was a good theater director. And I had done 30, 40 plays and I had institutions around the country. But I directed this play with celebrity actors. And it was the first time that I had directed a play where I didn't have to teach acting. I didn't have to talk to them about, how you do the lines and how you approach the character. They had that. So I could focus on my job as a director, which is creating images and pictures. You want to find people that can help you to create the magic that is your story, and in not sacrificing what you set it out to be. Most of us start with a story from the heart. We start because this is something that has moved us. We were motivated by it, and now we want to tell it to somebody else. Once you decide that it's important for you to tell, the only next question is, how do you tell it in a way that the people that you want to show it to accept it for what you want it to be? You mentioned community. I don't think that people spend enough time defining what that means. Like, what is your community? Like, if you say I'm a community theater, then what does that mean? Who? Now, I had a community theater. We had a community theater on the west side of Chicago, in Lawndale, and we had community discounts. We went door to door, and we had all of the actors door to door that we solicited. That's how we found Robert Townsend. That's how we found the Walter King, the Spellbinder. A bunch of those folks, they lived in that community. We had discount tickets for people in the community that couldn't afford it. We had parents from the community that worked with their kids to help them to sell tickets and make the costume. That's a community theater. And we realized that that was our community. Now, it didn't mean that other people didn't come in, because they did. We had busloads of folks coming from all over the city. But our community was the circumference of that building, and that's who we were going after trying to serve. Everybody else was important, but not as important. And so as you're creating community, as you're looking at developing material, we also have to get out of the notion that we are the only one that can do something. And I talk about Martin Luther King in this sense a lot. When you see the marches with Martin Luther King, there's a long line of people in the front. He's in the middle. Abernathy's probably next to him, C.T. Vivian, some of those folks. But there's a long line. All of those folks were the workers. King came, gave a speech. These were the folks that were organizing the community and getting people to come out, and they were the ones that after he left town were taking all of the hatred and everything else from everybody else. And I'm saying that because where is our team that we help to develop and grow? If you're going to be a filmmaker, where are the writers that you're developing? Where are the actors that you're developing? How do we create that? And then how do you give them an opportunity to grow, because you've already made the step that you're trying to make? The film festivals that you all are doing are extremely important, because people, not only do they need to create something, but they need to see how different audiences respond to it. Just because you came up with an idea doesn't make it a good one. Nor does it make it something that should be produced.
Yeah.
And so when you all are doing these festivals, and the only thing I say to filmmakers is you need to do this early. Before you finish, don't show me a movie that's pictures locked and ask me what I think about it. It's too late for me to even say anything. So do a rough cut, get your comments early. Whether you agree with them or not, that's up to you. But try to get that early. There's a young man that did a documentary recently that I had a chance to review. And it was about this donut place. And I'm going, well, where are the donuts? I like donuts. You didn't shoot any B-roll donuts.
Oh, no.
You interviewed the man while he was cooking them, but no, I want to
see the finished product all tasty and yummy.
I want my mouth to be watering.
Yes.
And so sometimes it just takes things like that.
Mr. Rami, you never disappoint. Leaving this space better than I came, per usual.
And you on, listen, the only track that you can be on is one of service, of giving, or of taking. Because there's not a lot of other stuff in between.
One of service, one of giving, and one of taking.
And one of taking, yeah. Because you can take stuff from people, and you can disrupt this whole thing. Or you can put yourself in a situation where you are constantly looking at, how do I create and give at the same time and make this infrastructure available so that I can push on? One minor example. I do the DSI program, Digital Storytelling Initiative at the University of Chicago. And it's a program where they teach people how to make a movie, and you get to make a short film. But what's most interesting about that project to me is that for a year of follow-up, you can utilize them and the equipment to make something else.
Oh, that's dope.
And so it takes you. So they help you do your first film. They help to get it into festivals. They help to get it in with our Tim Quinn and the stuff that they're doing. And then they turn around the next year and say, okay, you've been through the program, so now you can have the opportunity to learn some more, shoot something else. Because all we let you do was 3 minutes, 3 to 5, so now you can do a longer piece. That's the kind of instruction and help that a lot of filmmakers need. And too many times we're getting these small grants that don't help. They need to increase the amount of grants.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And the access to them and creating ease when applying for them and it not being like doing a dissertation every single time.
No,
that's another conversation.
And
we're on time. We're going to spill tea. Now we're going to we're going to go and have a deeper conversation. So thank you so much for always sharing your wisdom and really creating space where people can leave better than they came. I always learn when I'm in your presence, and I'm always reminded of my own greatness when I'm in your presence, which makes me really, really, really happy.
Well,
so thank you, Mr.
Thank
Rami,
you for having me.
Coming, being part of Real Wisdom with NK. That's another episode. We will see you next time. And if you're curious, have more questions, want to know how you can find out more about Midwest Film Festival, the podcast, and the incredible people that make it all happen, go to MidwestFilm.com. Make sure to become a member so that you can get access to Tea Time with me, sign up for our newsletter, and make sure you don't miss out on our monthly screenings. I know, you heard that right. The last Monday of every month, you can find us live at the Claudia Cassidy Theater located in the heart of Chicago at the Chicago Cultural Center. So we'll see you next time at Real Wisdom with NK and at a monthly screening. Now, if you want to hear us spill tea, stick around and head to MidwestFilm.com for our exclusive after-show content, Tea Time with NK, because the real talk happens after the episode. Let's be serious. So make sure you follow, subscribe, and share the show with someone who needs the scoop. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and as always, keep it real.